later. They're very level. Just a couple of small mistakes there.
Do you want this back?
No, you can keep it. Okay, pour to warm up, the board says, lisez, page 48, et étudiez les verbes réfléchir. So on page 48, we've got some new reflexive verbs, and we've also got some verbs that we've seen before, but in this context, they're making them reflexive to have a slightly different meaning. Then, copiez les verbes qui sont nouvelles. So I want for you to copy down the verbs that are new to you. Some of them you'll recognize already. So the new ones, copy down what those are and also their English meanings in your notebooks. I'll give you a couple minutes for that. So a couple of things here. We've got some verbs that we've seen before, but we haven't seen them in the reflexive form. So a couple of those would be acheter, for example. We've seen before, we know it means to buy, but we can also make it reflexive. We can really do that with a lot of verbs, actually. if we make it reflexive and add s apostrophe to the infinitive, now it becomes to buy oneself something. For example, if I said like, oh, I'm gonna buy myself an ice cream cone, right, this weekend, I would say, je vais me acheter une glace. So again, I'm doing something for or to myself, so I would make the verb reflexive. But if I'm buying an ice cream cone for Marie, I would just say j'achète, right, or je vais acheter une glace pour elle, pour Marie, and just leave it the normal version of acheter over here. Another example of a verb that they've turned into reflexive here would be rendre, right, rendre. Usually by itself it means to visit someone. If you make it reflexive, it means to go to a place. So it's kind of like the same thing as using aller, it's just another way of saying it. So we'll go through the examples here and how they would be pronounced. So up at the top, these we've all seen before, these are the morning routine verbs, so we'll kind of bypass those for now. Or it says, après le petit déjeuner, so the je forms. So I get ready, je me prépare. Marie, tu peux répéter?
Je me prépare.
Bien. Then I go to school, puis je me rends à l'école.
Puis je me rends à l'école.
Good. I hurry to get there on time. Je me dépêche pour être à l'heure.
Je me dépêche pour être à l'heure.
Good. If I'm late, I excuse myself, or I apologize, we'd say in English. Si je suis en retard, je m'excuse. Je m'excuse. Oui, c'est ça. Je m'excuse. I apologize, I excuse myself for being late. Okay, and then what's another way that you can say I'm sorry? Désolé, yeah, je suis désolé. And je suis désolé is more like if you've like wronged someone, right? We had an argument, I was wrong, I'm sorry, je suis désolé. Or I'm sorry, you use that, I'm sorry to hear about, you know, the loss of a family member or something, je suis désolé. Je m'excuse is more like, I was late, oh, I bumped into you, I'm sorry, that kind of thing, for more mild offenses. Okay, en classe, we have j'étudie, we know that verb already. À midi, je m'amuse avec mes copains. Good, so s'amuser is to have fun, it's a reflexive verb, right? It's like saying I amuse myself with friends. L'après-midi, in the afternoon, après les cours, after school, I take a walk in town. Je me promène. Good.
Why is that reflexive?
Because if you're doing it by yourself, for yourself, like a leisurely walk, right?
But if you're with another person, it wouldn't be reflexive?
It depends on what verb you're using, you know, because you can say we're walking and you can use the verb marcher, and that's just regular. So it just kind of depends on which one you want to use. So promener can be reflexive, but it doesn't have to be. To stop by somewhere, we can use je m'arrête. For example, je m'arrête parfois, I sometimes stop by chez le marchand de glace, like the ice cream shop, et je m'achète une glace, and I buy myself some ice cream, and that's the example I used up here on the board. Okay, then I rest a little bit, je me repose. Bien. Okay, to sit down to eat at the table, je me mets à table. Good. To get undressed, like at the end of the day, je me déshabille. Okay, and then je m'habille, of course, is to get dressed. To go to bed, je me couche. Good. So dormir is to sleep, je me couche is like the act of getting in bed, like getting ready for bed. And then finalement, I fall asleep, je m'endors. Je m'endors, good. Okay, we also have this word vers, V-E-R-S, means around or at about 11 o'clock. Vers, c'est ça. Okay, so let's do one speaking exercise up here together with some of these verbs. So this is just having you fill in the rest of the sentence. I'm looking at exercice 1 à la page 49. It says, décrivez certains aspects de votre vie. Comparez vos réponses avec celles de votre partenaire. Okay, since there's no partner to compare with, we'll just have you answer, Marie. So numéro 1, go ahead and read the line and then fill in with something that's appropriate with your own life.
En semaine, je me réveille à 6 heures.
Astisseur, excellent. Okay, yeah, keep going. Just go ahead and go through all of them.
Je me rends à l'école.
En voiture, probablement, oui.
Oui. Les soirs, je me couche avant 10 heures. Avant, is that like?
Before.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, oui.
Généralement, je m'endors. Oh, okay. Je m'endors vite. Le dimanche, je ne me réveille jamais avant 8 heures. Quand j'ai du temps libre, je préfère does that mean like after?
When I have free time,
Okay.
I prefer to do what?
Je préfère me rendre chez mes amis.
Bien.
Quand je me promène en ville, j'aime mieux balader. Okay. Dans les magasins. Avec mon argent, je préfère m'acheter des vêtements. Je me dépêche le plus pour aller. Pour aller à l'école. En général, je m'excuse quand je suis en retard.
Bien, excellent. What is j'ai tort? Do you remember that?
No.
That means when I'm wrong.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, when I'm wrong. Okay, bien. Okay, excellent. All right. Let's go ahead and turn the page then. And we'll look at one more concept, and then I'll give you a workbook page to do that will kind of combine both of these concepts. So here is how we put reflexive verbs into the past tense. Now, this is pretty much exactly like putting être verbs into the past tense. In fact, reflexive verbs are être verbs in the past tense. And so I'm going to do one conjugation up here. We'll do an example. So first of all, we'll put up here all reflexive verbs. Take être as the helping verb in passé composé. Okay, and just like all être verbs in passé composé, like je suis allé for I went, you also want to remember that you need to make the verb agree in number and gender with the subject. Except, there's an exception to that, except when the verb is followed by a direct object. Okay, so what does this even mean? Okay, so when we put some examples up here, it'll become more clear. So let's take, let's see here. Well, we'll use the verb laver. This is what they also have in the book. And laver is one that you can use on its own, right? You can say je me lave, I'm washing myself, right? Or you can say something specific, je me lave le visage, right? So when we're putting laver into the past tense, we've got, make sure the camera can see both words here. Switch that over a little bit. Okay, there we go. All right, these are also written out in your book as well. Page 50. Okay, so here what they've done is they have divided up a masculine side, right? So if if a male is doing the action, right, and then a feminine side if a female is doing the action. So we've got a picture of a guy here, a picture of a girl on the right. So if we're using se laver, we'll start out with je me suis lavé. So we've got a couple of different components here. First of all, we have to pick out the correct form of être to use as the helping verb. With je, of course, you'd use suis. We also have to remember to put in the reflexive pronoun. In this case, it's me. And then we've got to put the verb itself into the past tense. And since laver is an ER verb, it would just be E with an accent aigu. And since in this case we're talking about a male who's speaking, right, like if your dad was saying, you know, I took a shower, I washed up or whatever, he would say it like this, and you wouldn't have any extra letters at the end. Okay, then we have tu t'es lavé, il s'est lavé, and what we're doing here is this is really T-E, but since we have the two vowels, we can shorten it to T apostrophe, and same thing here. Okay, if we have a group of us, and we all happen to be guys, or maybe we have one guy in the group, we would say nous nous sommes lavés, with an S at the end. And then vous vous êtes lavé. Here, vous can be plural, but it doesn't have to be. It can also just be singular formal. So like if we were talking to Mr. Grant, we could use the vous form, or if we were talking to multiple people, we could use the vous form. So if we're talking to multiple people, we put the S at the end. Okay. And then they give an example, I'm sorry, I forgot the last one. Ils se sont lavés. And that's always going to be plural. It's for they washed up. Then it gives some examples as well as how to do a negative sentence. Je ne me suis pas lavé. So the reflexive pronoun and the form of être will stay together in that case. Okay, and then they've got some questions, but we won't worry too much about that for right now. Okay, so then for the female side of things, I won't write all of these out since they're in your book here, but you will have basically just the letter E added on, right? And then also the S's from the plural forms as well. Okay, just like all of the other être house verbs that we studied before. Okay, bien. All right, so for today then, we will just do some writing exercises. So à la page 23 dans le cahier, page 23, we're going to go ahead and do the whole page. The first exercise deals with just some of those new verbs, reflexive verbs, in the present tense, and then the second exercise deals specifically with the past tense of reflexive verbs. And actually, in the first exercise, a few of these verbs aren't even reflexive, but they just want for you to put them in present tense. Okay? Alright, so Marie, I'll give you the rest of the time to work on.